house and shot her dead. Day 2 of the Indian elections. The electorate's so large that the process of casting ballots won't be over until the middle of May. One place where many will boycott the vote is Kashmir. When the British left the subcontinent in 1947, the status of Kashmir was unresolved. To cut a very contested story short, the Hindu Maharaja of Kashmir decided his Muslim-majority state wouldn't join up with Pakistan, but with India. The two sides have gone to war over the territory, and today Pakistan has around 1/3 of Kashmir and India 2/3, including the Muslim majority and the intensely politicised Kashmir Valley. To keep control, India's had to deploy as many as 400,000 security personnel. Although all the numbers relating to Kashmir are keenly disputed, it's probably fair to say that as many as 100,000 people have been killed in the struggle between Kashmiris and the Indian state. Owen Bennett-Jones now reports.
Kashmir today is as polarised as ever. Depending who you listen to, India is repressing the aspirations of the Kashmiris for self-determination, or it is defending its territory against jihadi militants sent to Kashmir by a malevolent Pakistan. And whichever version you believe, it is simply the case that many Muslim Kashmiris do still resist Indian rule, as they've been doing for decades. This is the Sherry Kashmir Stadium, one of the most remarkable cricket grounds you'll ever see. It's in the middle of Srinagar, and all around there are the high snow-capped mountains, and this is a famous place in Srinagar because they're still talking about what happened here in 1983. Huge match here, West Indies, India, and a day they still talk about. And to tell us why, a man who was involved in the events that day, Shakil Bakshi.
There was not a single clap for India. The whole jubilation was for West Indies.
And then what happened on the pitch?
The people went inside and they dig the pitch and they were arrested.
They dig the pitch?
Yes.
What did they use to dig the pitch?
The wickets.
What, the stumps?
Yes, stumps.
It was a spontaneous protest and they got the stumps and they dug up the pitch?
Yes.
And has India ever played cricket in Srinagar since?
This was another match, and then there was no other match played here in Kashmir.
So that was 1983, and of course 30 years have passed, and the question is this: has India managed to win over any more local support amongst the Kashmiris? Now, in England they call it the Tebbit test, or the cricket test. It is said that your choice of team reveals something about your identity. So I'm in a restaurant in Srinagar now. The TV is on. It's 2020. It's Bangladesh versus Pakistan. Pakistan are batting. There are lots of blokes watching it, crowded around the TV. Let me ask you, who are you supporting? Bangladesh or Pakistan?
Pakistan.
Pakistan?
Pakistan. Pakistan.
Pakistan? That's three?
Pakistan.
That's Pakistan. So, all right. Well, there's no doubt about that. It's everyone here supporting Pakistan. Well, the main Kashmiri city, Srinagar, is very politicised. Everyone knows everyone else's views down to the tiniest detail, it seems. And in rural areas too, people are always talking about politics, especially when a foreign journalist turns up with a microphone. So I asked a group of men in a market in the south of the Kashmir Valley what they're thinking about the upcoming elections.
They will not cast their votes in coming elections.
There are about 4 or 5 guys standing with you. Will you be voting in the election?
No.
Now, you're all, I would say, 40, 50-year-old men. Have you ever voted?
They say they never cast their votes so far. I mean, they are 50 years old. They never cast their votes.
And does anyone here, we've got a group probably of 10 to 15 men who are just in the marketplace and all gathered around us. Do any of you want to be part of Pakistan?
Independent Kashmir.
Independent.
He also wants independent Kashmir.
Independent. Some views from the south of the Kashmir Valley there, and from those men to a man whose name will be known to all the people in the marketplace, I've no doubt at all. Farooq Abdullah is the most senior member of Kashmir's leading political dynasty. His father, Sheikh Abdullah, stood side by side with Nehru in the struggle for independence. His son, Omar, is Chief Minister of Kashmir, and Farooq Abdullah himself sits in the Indian Parliament and is up for re-election. So the family is now clearly pro-India. But I asked him, in his heart of hearts, would he not prefer Kashmir be independent?
You see, it's very easy to say independent. We have a nuclear China on one side, we have a nuclear Pakistan on the other side, and we have a nuclear India on the third side, and we are landlocked. We do not want to fall into a situation where Afghanistan today is. It is wonderful to think of what a wonderful thing the independence would be, but where are our resources? Where would I have the resources to have an air force, to have an army, to defend my borders? I wouldn't be able to defend any of these countries.
There are other small nations, let's think of Bhutan, that manage to live amongst very big neighbours in a very peaceful, quiet way and to the satisfaction of their people, I think.
Bhutan still depends on India. If there was no India, then Bhutan would probably be part of China.
So you think that when probably, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but probably most people in the valley would welcome independence, that they're naive?
See, they would welcome independence. I would like to ask them, where will the pay come for our people, from the smallest servant of the government to the highest servant of the government to the governor? What is our revenue? So the dream of independence is wonderful. But are you going to give people a better life? I don't think so.
Your son is now going into politics? He's in politics.
He is. I wouldn't have wanted him, but then I couldn't stop him.
What would your advice to him be?
I think now it's too late to advise. I would say do as best as you can for the people of the state and start thinking how maybe one day you may be able to play a role of trying to bring friendship between these two nations, India and Pakistan.
Because you're now in your 80s?
I am going to go to 80s in 2 years, which is not too far away.
Oh, 78, I'm sorry. 78. And your son is?
He's about 40-something.
40-something.
Yes.
And so when he reaches your grand age, will it be resolved?
I hope so. When it does, he should come to my grave and say, well, Dad, we have achieved it.
Farooq Abdullah as theatrical as ever. Well, let's finally just try to get an assessment of how the rival political forces in Kashmir stack up at the moment, whether they be for independence, for India or for Pakistan. I asked Arjuman Hussain Talib, newspaper columnist, to assess first of all the percentage of people in the Kashmir Valley who would like Kashmir to be aligned to India.
It wouldn't be more than 10%. Not more than 10%.
Okay, so what percentage would want to join up with Pakistan?
Again, I would be, it would not be easy to say a particular figure or a percentage, but roughly 10%.
Okay, so you're saying 10 and 10 for India and Pakistan. What about independence?
It would be about 80% of the population would support independence.
Let me just ask you another question to help explain what's happening here, because there are 200, 300,000 Indian security forces here?
These figures are contested. The people who are opposing India's rule in Kashmir, their stand is that the number of soldiers, Indian soldiers in Kashmir stands anywhere from 600,000 to 700,000. But the official figures put it not more than 400,000. But in any case, it's a significant deployment.
And in the fight that has been going on between the people who favour either Pakistan or independence and the Indian state, because there's been an insurgency here, how many people have died?
It is about 100,000 people.
It's a huge number. I want to ask you about the typical school class. I mean, can I ask you roughly how old you are?
I'm 39.
Roughly 39?
Yes. Not roughly, exactly.
Okay, exactly 39. And if you imagine your school, how many were in your class?
Some 40 students.
This is probably an elite school, an upper middle class school?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So in your school, what's happened to those 40?
If I reflect, I would say that about 30 out of the 40 in the classroom, they left Kashmir. One for education and second for jobs later. Out of the remaining 10, 2 joined militant groups, and I would say about 6 would have been around here, And I'm not sure about the rest of the two.
Another two you're not sure about?
I'm not sure.
And of the militants, are they alive?
One of our classmates, he died during the militancy period. He was a combatant.
Now then, if you were to take a typical class from a lower class school, here in Srinagar, another 40, what would be the sort of ratios there to, for someone of your age? What had happened to them?
It would be around not less than 20 people would have joined the militant ranks.
So many more would have joined the militancy and many more would have died.
Yes.
I mean, that's an incredible fact, actually, just to reflect on that. From a normal school in Kashmir, 10 out of the 40 would have died in the militancy.
Possibly, yes.
And now, today, a smaller proportion would be joining the militants, is that right?
Far smaller proportion. There has been a shift towards more non-violent opposition and more non-violent articulation of political goals. Very few people now, across all the classes, join militant ranks now.
What you're saying is they're not joining the militants, but they haven't changed their mind, actually. It's not that the politics has changed in terms of their orientation, it's just the tactics.
Very true, very true. The politics hasn't changed, but only the tactics, yes.
That's Arjamand Hussain Talib ending that report by Owen Bennett-Jones. Just time for tonight's main headline. The Culture Secretary, Maria Miller, has said she feels she's let down her constituents in Basingstoke because of the continuing row about her expenses. In an article for the local paper, she said